generations to come.
Welcome back. Here we are with our first TDN Writers Room podcast of 2025. My name is Bill Finley. I'm a correspondent for the Thoroughbred Daily News, and it's good to be back.
It's very good to be back. I'm Zoe Cabin with First Racing and XBTV. And are we done saying Happy New Year? It seems like we should be done with that, right?
All right, let me scratch off Happy New Year here. No, I'm Randy Moss with NBC Sports. Before we get started, one quick update. When we last taped these podcasts in December, I recall ranting about many things, but included was the lack of availability of stewards head-on replays for the Breeders' Cup races, not the number one most pressing issue in racing, but an oversight. As of about the second week in December, those head-on replays have now been posted on the various replay sites for horse players to see and utilize. So whether it was the Breeders' Cup Del Mar, the Jockey Club, Equibase, DRF, Roberts Communications, or any combination thereof, props to whoever made that happen for the horse players.
It was me. I told you.
Zoe,
it was your Christmas present. Happy Christmas.
Well, it just goes to show you when Zoe talks, people listen.
That's it.
So, there you go.
We knew that. Now everybody does.
All right. Guys, it's funny. It's only the first week in January, and normally you wouldn't think that there would be much going on quite yet, Kentucky Derby-wise, but actually last weekend was a pretty busy weekend on the road to the Kentucky Derby with four graded, actually they weren't all graded stakes races, but four stakes races that were preps for the Kentucky Derby. Let's get right to the new phenomenon, the new horse of the century, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let that hype machine begin. Barnes. $3.2 million purchase by Amr Zaden, trained by Bob Baffert, looked very good in the San Vicente. Beating, even though it was a small field, as they are all seems to be for these 3-year-old races in Santa Anita, beat some good horses in Bullard. We got a 94 speed rating. And the combination of Baffert going back to the Derby, presumably, if the horse stays healthy, the $3.2 million, and the fact that this horse can flat out run, he looks like, again, if he stays healthy, he's going to be the story of the Derby. I can't poke any holes in him, Zoe Cadman. He looks like the real deal, and I bet you Bob Baffert can't wait to get him to the Churchill Downs starting gate, along with the 4 or 5 other big horses that he has.
Well, let's not forget, he's already been in the Churchill Downs starting gate as Bob's first runner at Churchill in multiple years. He didn't really look that spectacular breaking his maiden, but he sure as hell looked good the other day. I mean, he ripped off quarters like you wouldn't believe, finishing his final 3/8 and like 35 flat. He was very, very impressive. I can remember looking at him at the sale, and he struck me as a big hip, very intelligent, muscular looking horse. He's just beautiful, and he's basically a Bob Baffert family, isn't he? Even the mare he's out of is by American Pharaoh. She was unplaced in 2 starts. This is her first foal. He's done everything right. He was a $775,000 R&A at the Fazig-Tipton sale, but he's good. He's extremely good, but Bob's over the hype already. I actually went by the barn to see if I could talk to Jimmy yesterday, and they're like, no more interviews. We're done. We named him after Jimmy. We're not talking. Look what happened to Muth last year. The hype train started there. He said, and see what Muth did. We're not talking about it. Go down, take a still shot of him, have a good look at him. Mm-hmm. Mum's the word. So he goes, and take a look at Rodriguez, which we'll get to in just a moment as well while you're at it. So he was super, super duper impressive.
Well, there's a good reason for Bob being that way. I mean, there's also life is good, right? As we're sitting here taping this, it's all well and good to talk about Barnes and how excited Bob is to maybe get him to Churchill Downs. We're taping this on January the 7th. Okay. A whole lot can go wrong between now and the first Saturday in May. But I share your analysis about the difference between Barnes in his hand-picked debut at Churchill Downs and the difference between him this past weekend. I mean, he won his debut. I thought he was somewhat underwhelming, especially compared to the hype and what they paid for him. But did he take a big step forward in his second start? Looked really, really good. So it's going to be an exciting prospect to watch. But there's a long list of Bob Baffert horses, and some of whom I'm sure we haven't even seen run yet that we'll be talking about in future podcasts.
Well, so far as I wouldn't call him a late bloomer, but a horse that was not in anybody's list for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile or whatnot. On the same day that he won with Barnes, he had a TDN Rising Star and a horse by the name of Rodriguez, it was actually his second career start. First time out, he was second behind Bafford's Romanesque, who came back to be second in the San Felipe behind Barnes. And, this was sort of a race where he too made a statement. He won by 7 lengths, a very easy win. It's fun. We're right back to where Bob Baffert used to be before all the nonsense and the suspensions and whatnot. He's got 5 or 6 very good 3-year-olds as it is right now. As Randy said, he's probably got 2 or 3 more in the barn that he hasn't even run yet. Everything's back to normal with Bob Baffert. Can he win this year's Kentucky Derby? Of course he can. Can he lose? Of course he can. But he is certainly going to be a major figure on the road to the Kentucky Derby. Randy, what did you think of Rodriguez?
Very, very impressive. Started off his career in a 1-mile maiden race against a pretty good bunch of horses that included a half-brother to Mage and one of the best maidens in California right now, a horse called Rank from the Doug O'Neill barn. The same day, later in the card, a horse that's considered to be a Santa Anita handicap contender by the name of Miramati, a 4-year-old, ran in an allowance race at the same distance. And Rodriguez finished his mile in 0.24 seconds faster than Miramati did. Now, anytime you can compare, even later in the year, when you can compare a 3-year-old to a very talented older horse, and they can run comparable times in similar races, it's a feather in their cap. But when you're talking about a January 3-year-old with a Beyer speed figure of 101, winning his maiden by 7 lengths and running a faster time than a horse like Miramati, this horse could wind up being something special, Zoe.
And that was a revised Beyer speed figure as well, correct?
Yes, correct.
Wasn't it initially like 89 or something? Listen, Rodriguez was pretty darn amazing and no one expected it. 485,000 as a yearling. He looked a little bit big and gangly as a yearling. I can remember looking at him. But he's a May 20th foal. I mean, he's very, very young indeed. And for him to put forth that kind of performance, I gave myself a guided tour around Bob's barn with Bob following behind. And we had a little chat about all the horses going around. I mean, you'd love to just sneak a secret camera in there and listen to Bob, but he's beautiful and he's a very kind horse. He's kind of got this big frame on him. And hey, let us not forget, Authentic is a Derby winner, but Authentic won the Derby in September. If it was in May, I don't believe that Authentic would have won the Derby. He had time to mature over the course of the summer. Now, I'm not saying that's the same with Rodriguez, but he's already behind the 8 ball being a May 20th foal. He did everything right. He's a beautiful horse, and we'll have to see what happens. And again, like you said, Baeza, a very nice half-brother to Mage and Dornoch right behind him. He's knocking on the door, and there's good things to come from him as well. They paid $1.25 million for him, trained by John Sheriffs.
So the other 3-year-old prep races didn't get quite the acclaim, and deservedly so, with Barnes's win. But I'm still, in the rider mode. I like the human interest stories. There's a good one out of the Smarty Jones Stakes. Lonnie Briley is a 72-year-old trainer, has never had a graded stakes win in his life. He has a horse by the name of Cole Battle, who started his career in a 5.5 furlong race at Evangeline Downs. The same day that Bob Baffert won with a $3.2 million purchase, this horse, Cole Battle, won as a $70,000 purchase, ridden by Juan Vargas, who has won a couple graded stakes races in his career. But again, as Randy pointed out, January 7th, who knows where this horse is going to go. But Randy, these horses that come from sort of the other side of the tracks, I always get a big kick out of them. I wish this horse well. Is he as good as Barnes and probably 8 other Baffert horses? Probably not. But I think it's a cool story. He seems like a nice fella. He's been around forever. Used to be the farm manager for John Franks. I'll sort of be rooting for him on the road to the Kentucky Derby, which looks like it'll go to the Rebel Stakes next.
Very cool story. Also a very frustrating story for me. When Cole Battle won the Springboard Mile at Remington Park, which he won right before taking the Smarty Jones, right? I didn't really look at the race, look at the past performances beforehand. And when the race was over, I actually went back that night and saw the results and said, let me watch the replay. Okay, fine. Oh, Coal Battle. Okay, where did he come from? Oh, he won the Jean Lafitte Futurity. I think I'll go back and watch the Jean Lafitte and see what he looked like in the Jean Lafitte. Holy cow. Anybody that has access to replays, go back and watch the Jean Lafitte at Delta Downs and tell me how in the hell that horse could be almost 7-1 in the Springboard Mile. It was unbelievable. He blew the first turn completely and dropped back to last. He made an Arazi type move on the second turn and blew to the lead. He bolted down the stretch and went way out past the middle of the racetrack, almost lost the lead, which he had like a 3-length lead, almost lost it, got him straightened up again. He came back again, opened up at the finish, and he still got like a 76 buyer speed figure that could have been a few points higher and was one of the best speed figures going in just on that, going into the Springboard Mile. I would have bet everything in my pocket on that horse at Remington Park if I had been paying attention before the race and had gone back and watched the Jean Lafitte Futurity. Now, is he going to be, is he going to be a Kentucky Derby winner or even in the Kentucky Derby? That there's a lot of water under the bridge between now and then.
And Manny, by the way, very good job saying "holy cow."
Yeah, I wanted to say something else.
The cow would follow the holy. But you do realize this is a family show, so congratulations on that. I'll just go guns loaded. We're going to talk to trainer Jose D'Angelo.
I want to talk about Lonnie Briley too.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Zoe. I got he so threw me off with his holy cow. I forgot to go to you. Go.
It's a great story, isn't it? I mean, this is a guy who in his career, he's been training since 91, has never won more than 21 races in 1 year. And that was his best year, was last year. He's already halfway to the Derby, right? He got 10 points for the Springboard Mile. He picks up 10 points in that race. So he's already got 20. Wouldn't that be a cool story if he got there? And he manages to ship. He obviously needs to take his jockey with him because Juan Vargas has only ridden him 3 times. All 3 of them are winners, so he needs to stay on him. Evangeline, Kentucky Downs, Keeneland, Delta, Remington, Oaklawn Park. Take Vargas, and perhaps we'll see him in the Derby. But he's got 20 points. He's just got to stay healthy.
And whether they run him next in the Southwest or the Rebel, you can count on one of the Bob Baffert top 3-year-olds to be in that race as well. So that's what they've got looking ahead for Coal Battle.
Okay. So before I so rudely interrupted Zoe, I was going to say, what about the other 2 races? I don't really have anything to say about either the Mucho Macho Man Stakes won by Guns Loaded, although we are going to hear from trainer Jose D'Angelo in the Gainesway Guest of the Week segment. He did not get a very good buyer number, which I know Randy might want to talk about, only a 79. Then the Jerome, a horse by the name of Cyclone State, won to get an 84 buyer number. Can they make the Derby? Sure, anything can happen, but I don't think they're cracking anybody's top 10 list anytime soon.
I concur.
Yeah, I was, we'll hear more, obviously, as you said, from Jose D'Angelo, and he's got a different take on Guns Loaded's finish in the Mucho Macho Man, which wasn't very visually impressive at all to the wire. You'll hear Jose talking about that a little bit later. I was a little bit more impressed with Cyclone State in the Jerome than I was with Guns Loaded in the Mucho Macho Man, but neither really are going to be on my short list at this point.
The interesting thing about Cyclone State, Chad Summers always seems to come up with one horse every year. Every year, just to keep him in everyone's mind. Cyclone State comes in. Al Gold, of course, part of the ownership there. Bred by Alan Poindexter, who continues to breed really good Iowa breds. I mean, who'd have thunk it, right? Every Alan Poindexter's an Iowa bred, and they're good horses. This one purchased for just $70,000 and looks like he's headed to Saudi. And we'll see. Saudi, perhaps he's planning on winning the Saudi Derby and then coming back for the Kentucky Derby. I don't know. It's Chad. You never know which way he's going to go.
That sounds like a bold Chad Summers move, doesn't it? To go to Saudi for the big money. Yeah, good for him.
All right. So as Randy mentioned, on January 7th, my colleague TD Thornton, you see him sometimes on the podcast, came out with his top 12 list for the Kentucky Derby. He likes to get it out early, and he is very out there on his opinions. Now, I do the Oaks one, and the way I do it is I kind of look at it as like the morning line point at the Oaks. If so-and-so like Immersive is going to be the favorite, I'm going to make that horse number one, even though I may or may not love the horse. TD, he likes to think outside the box, that's for sure. So his number one is Resort. Is that the name of the one? I can't even read my hand.
First Resort.
First Resort, okay. Who won the Kentucky Jockey Club. I gotta admit this. Maybe this makes me look bad. His number two is a horse by the name of Sandman. I had to look him up. I never heard of him. So, and then finally, the superstar, the American Pharaoh, the next Justify, the next Seabiscuit, Barnes, rated third. I know what TD's trying to do here. He's trying to think outside the box, come up with some wise guy sleeper horses. When I do these things, he's got Citizen Bull, a Baffert horse. We haven't even talked about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, fourth. But TD, what are you thinking, my friend?
Well, I'm guessing that TD puts out his top 12 for the Kentucky Derby on the first weekend in January because he's asked to do that by the bosses at TDN. We talked about Zoe and I giving our Derby picks and before the podcast here, and we were like, no, don't think so. No, not going to go there. Not in early January. Look, I think Zoe would concur. I am a fan of good, reasoned analysis. And whether or not you agree with TD about First Resort or Sandman being 1 and 2, when you read the stuff that he wrote that goes along with his top 12, okay. I mean, he really has done a lot of thought, really has done a lot of digging below the surface that a lot of people wouldn't do. And hey, I mean, he makes some pretty good points about those two horses.
TD's got balls. He has cojones, and I love it. I love it. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if Owen Harty won the Kentucky Derby with First Resort? I mean, why not? That horse looked good. And like you said, it's well thought out. It's well written. It's right here in today's TDN. I suggest you have a look, go back, watch the race replay, because First Resort won that race like a good thing. Sandman was a $1.2 million Tappet, sold. I think it was OBS April, and Tom McCrocklin sold him. He was one of the gallopers, and he was beautiful, big, gray. He was out of the Lothenbach dispersal, I do believe, and he just galloped around there. He didn't breeze, and he's continued to incrementally get a little bit better. So, yeah, good for TD.
Man, you make me look like the bad guy here.
They were like, hey, you guys going to rip TD? No. I mean, I thought it was very good, solid, interesting analysis.
He made some very good points. And I would never rip TD. He does an excellent job. He just has a different way of thinking when it comes to this, as do a lot of other people, myself included. That's all. So.
And he's got cojones.
He does. Now we're done talking about TD's cojones. Let's talk about the TDN. And the TDN Writers Room is brought to you each and every week by Keeneland. Make plans to attend the 3-day January sale, which is held from January the 13th to the 15th. And I promise you guys, it's planning to warm up there right now. They're blanketed in a sea of ice right now, but it's starting to thaw out. The Keeneland January Horses of All Ages sale is noted for high-quality broodmare prospects and short yearlings, and for being among the final opportunities for breeders to obtain stock as the breeding season nears. We'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
For quality at every level. For accomplished collector's items. For breeding's strongest foundation. For champions in the making. For New Year opportunities. Look to January. The Keeneland January Horses of All Ages sale, beginning Monday, January 13th.
It's now that time of the podcast for our fastest horse of the week, brought to you by the Fast Sires at WinStar Farm, and in particular, this sire, Too Fast. No, wait, Two Phils. Two Phils is his name. In case you've been living under a rock, Two Phils had a hell of a 3-year-old year, right? He won the Jeff Ruby Stakes in the fastest time since 2002, the highest Ragozin Derby prep number in 2023, 105 buyer when he was second in the Kentucky Derby, the highest figure in 16 years, won the Ohio Derby in its fastest time since it was made a mile in an eighth race. Now Two Phils, standing stud at WinStar Farm, and the punchline to all this, the best part of it all, you get all that for Two Phils, just $10,000 fee for Two Phils. Want to see more? You can watch the Two Phils Roundtable. I wasn't asked to be on the Two Phils Roundtable. Why not? You can do that by visiting winstarfarm.com, and you can navigate to the stallion page of Two Phils. Okay, fastest horse of the week. A horse that we were talking about roughly about this time last year, maybe a little bit later, as a Triple Crown candidate. Didn't pan out, got a lot of time off, came back this past at this meeting at the fairgrounds, and this past weekend, a horse named Hall of Fame, owned by Coolmore, trained by Steve Asmussen, the son of Gunrunner, made his the second start in his comeback. An allowance race at a mile and a 16th, won it in a cakewalk wire-to-wire with a buyer speed figure of 103. The horse is now 2 for 2 since he's been brought back to the races. And almost certainly now you can look for Hall of Fame to show up next in one of those mile and a 16th stakes races for older horses at the fairgrounds. And right now he is clicking on all cylinders. Our fastest horse of the week, a name from the past, Hall of Fame.
Welcome in now the Gainesway Guest of the Week, Jose D'Angelo. And Jose, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Happy New Year and all that. And you've only been in this country for 5 years, yet you've already climbed the heights of the sport, running in some of the biggest races in the country, running in big races overseas, etc. Did you ever imagine it would happen this quickly and this easily for you?
Yes, thank you, Bill. Very happy to be here with you guys. Yes, I arrived to USA in 2019. I'm very happy about the results that we are getting here. I'm literally living the dream here because, I came from Venezuela with so many goals and many dreams. Of course, your main goal is go to the Derby, like every horseman, for example. But to go to the Derby, you have to go step by step. Win races, let the people know you, go to stakes, make your horse, make the points. It's a long way to arrive here. And probably you're going to be on the Derby in 40 years, 30 years. You never know. Some people have a lot of talent. In everybody like jockeys, trainers, owners, breeders, some people don't win the Derby, but you have to make your name, build your, the people trust on you to arrive there. So, last year we went to Ascot, that is 5 furlongs on the grass, is short on the grass. We went to Saudi, and I feel like every that we are doing here, because I cannot talk under just my name. I have to talk under my entire team, my father, me, my guys, my assistants, everybody, because it's not just Jose D'Angelo. To run horses, you need to have a big team. You need a big team, and everybody work for win. Because in horse racing, like the small details make the big things. It's not like for example, a horse is a animal, a beast, but when they don't eat, they are telling you, hey, something is wrong with them. So, I'm very, very grateful about God and life, about the results that we are getting here. My goal now is keep winning races, try to go to the top level, and I'm very sure that pretty soon we're gonna be on all the races that we want to run, like Breeders' Cup Classic, Kentucky Derby, Dubai World Cup, Ascot. I just want to win all the races that I can.
Well, Jose, it's been a whirlwind for you already. As you mentioned, all the places you've gone to in just such a short time. You mentioned your team. Is it more specifically your father who has been with you every day, Kikiko, and he's a strong presence in the barn? What does he do in your barn?
Yes, I learned everything from my father. He was champion in Venezuela. He won tons of great ones over there, leading trainers over there. I feel like that the team that we make is a strong team because he let me go out with my horses. The heart of the barn is him. Here in Florida, we make the babies here. When we got the Twitter, we start training him. He have a lot of experience with that. So I can go to Saratoga, I can go to Keeneland, and I know that my horse is still on there, probably better than my care, with him. I saw him working stronger with me than when he worked for himself. so we make such a good thing here, and the team's doing excellent.
So, Jose, we could spend the whole podcast just talking about your 2024, right? From Royal Ascot, You won a stakes at Saratoga, you went to Saudi, you won your first Grade 1 at Kentucky Downs in a $2 million race with Howard Wolowitz. You were second in the Breeders' Cup Sprint with Ben Tornado. So many highlights. You almost made it to the Kentucky Derby last year with No More Time, who was injured in a workout leading up to the Kentucky Derby after running second at Tampa. And now along comes Guns Loaded. So tell us about your thoughts on your analysis on the Mucho Macho Man, how you did the horse won, obviously. How did you feel about him going in? He was 6-5. And how optimistic are you coming out of that race?
He's a special horse. When I make my selection to go to Saratoga, I bring just two-year-old, him and Chairman Fury. So that's telling you like how different he is about the other 2-year-olds. When I saw working him at the first time, I know he have talent, but not the speed that he showed. So that's why I put him on 7 furlongs first time out, because he's gone runner. The mare came by Bernardini, so everything says that he have to go long. When we worked at him, he never showed this speed that he have because he's very fast. So he broke quickly from the gate. He missed a little bit the break, and he ran second against Dallas Stewart horse. And when I saw his speed, I say probably, he got sick. He gave me little time to run again. So I say, I'm going to cut the distance because I saw the speed that he have. I'm going to take the advantage on his speed. And he won impressive on Churchill Downs. Okay? That's why he make a TDN Rising Star and everything. So this race confused a little bit, like probably you have a sprinter, probably you have a 2-turn horse, because everybody that you see at the mornings when he trains, his blood pedigree says that he's perfect bred to go long. I start stretching him on the workouts, on the gallops, and he responds well to me to go long. That's why I decided to run on the mile instead go to the Pasco in 7 furlongs in Tampa. Because the work, if you see his chart of workouts, the 6 furlongs workout was strong workout, strong gallop out, that says perfect to go to the mile. So now talking about the race, I know wasn't fast fractions. I know the horse won by neck, but after the race finished, Luis came to me and he said, "Hey, Jose, the other horse never gonna pass us. I have so much horse." I saw, I was so nervous about the race because I'm being honest, I don't see the gallop out in person. I was nervous about the race. I don't remember. So if you watch the race until the finish line, the other horse looks so much, better than Gunsloader. So much better. I'm realist. But if you see the gallop out of the horses, it's not the same. It's different. Like Gunsloader is still in front. So I say, hey, Louis was right. He have so much horse, and every horse have his own personality. This way, Gunsloader is the kind of horse like if you work by himself, he can work 50, slow. But if you put a company, he's aggressive. Okay, so I feel like when he feels the other horse, he start running again. About if he can go long or short or whatever, I think we have a fast and nice horse. We have to give the opportunity to him run next time on the Hollywood and see where we are. Also, it's so different run 1 mile in one turn than run 1 mile or longer in 2 turns, because probably with the 2 turns you can carry the speed and make good fractions and we see. But he is still green. He tried to go inside a little bit. We have to correct that on him and we see where we are. But we have a nice horse and I think he have a brilliant future.
Well, what are you thinking now in the back of your mind? Do you go back to Tampa? Do you look at the Holy Bull or wait for the Fountain of Youth? What are you leaning toward right now?
The good thing is like when you run the Mucho Macho Man, you have enough time to run on the Sam Davis or the Holy Bull. Because if you run the Pasco next week, you are short on time. You have to go to the Sam Davis. I think we have plenty time to see him, how he works. But everything looks like we are going to the Mucho Macho Man because he knows the track already. And we have plenty time. But everything looks like the Mucho Macho Man.
You mean the Holy Bull?
The Holy Bull.
Okay,
yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Do you have an update on No More Time? Because I looked up, he doesn't seem to have any workouts. Is he coming back to you?
He's still in Ocala. He's recovering about the surgery and everything. He's getting time. That's the horse needs time, and we see where we are later with him.
And what about Gabaldon? I saw you breezed him once at Saratoga in July, hoping to get him to the Breeders' Cup, and that didn't pan out. What about him?
Yes, he was training very good after Ascot. He got some weight, but he got bone bruising, so that's why we sent to the farm to rest. He's breezing already. He's coming in our way last week of January, and he's going to be ready for this year. We're training good. Everything's good with him.
Jose, you started off your career with a horse. Everyone needs one horse to get their name out there. Your horse's name was Jesus's Team. Can you tell us a little bit about what he meant to you? I know that he went to, where did he go to? He went to Puerto Rico. I saw he won a Grade 1 race over there at Camarillo.
Yes. It's a long story with him. I owe everything to this horse. He put me on the map. He let me, introduce myself to everybody. He showed me how's the system here in USA, because here you like small details that you have to get licensed in every state, move the jockey seals to every race. I forget the seals to run the Haskell, $1 million, because I don't used to do that in Venezuela. So, I got this horse. We ran Haskell, Gene Dandy, Preakness, Breeders' Cup, Pegasus World Cup, Dubai World Cup. At the end with him, like the owner, the truth, like we have some problems with the owner to pay the bills and everything. Was Venezuela, so I have to decide to run the horse for attack and probably get claim to get the money back and pay everybody, or sold the horse to the Sonara stable. And the deal was like he paid that the money that the horse owed over there, but the horse never gonna run or claim him or go to a bad place. So he's now probably the new best sire in Puerto Rico. He covered like he have the record like all the mares that he covered over there, and he have the life now that he deserves. I love him. I feel like I pay back to him.
That's awesome.
That's nice.
That's very cool, because we all hear such horror stories about horses going over there. And I almost felt a little bit worried about asking the question. And I'm glad that he's having the life he definitely deserves.
Yes, probably if I run him for a tag, like I get the money easier. But I feel like probably he can finish his race running at 10 years old or gelding or whatever. So that's why he's there, having the best life that he can. Under by Sonata stable, Mark Thatcher, that he take care of a lot of his horses.
Great. I think I'm good.
Got one more question about Guns Loaded. Give us a little bit of behind the scenes on Guns Loaded, what kind of horse he is to train and all that. I haven't seen him in person, but just looking at the video, either the runner-up in the Mucho Macho Man, Chad Brown's horse, is a really small horse, and your horse is normal, or your horse is really big.
No, he's really big. He's beautiful. I think he worth the money that they pay for him, because he's beautiful horse, strong. He's that you are looking for a race horse, strong, balanced, nice walk. So he's nice horse, huge horse.
Good mind.
Good, like at the start, he was little green, jumping to go to a track, and jumping. But now he's getting focused, he's getting better. That's very important. Also, he was little mind when you go inside the stall. Now he let you get in, give candies, carrots, and improving a little bit.
Well, they paid $800,000 for him, and I mean that's a big price tag. More Play Racing owns him, who basically is Rich Mendez, who also owns No More Time. What can you tell us about the ownership group with Rich? Because he's quite a colorful personality.
Yes, Guns Loaded is owned by Rich, More Play, and all his family. Lady Sheila Stables and Joy Platts. They are lucky. Like last year, No More Time. This year, Guns Loaded. They have Urban Legend that ran good in Saratoga and ran well in Keeneland. She's so spicy. That's such a nice filly. She lost at Oakland, second the stakes, but I'm pretty sure that she have a brilliant future. Probably she have so much talent. Just we have to handle her speed good and see where we are. But they are nice owners. They let me work. They trust on me because, when you have this horse and you have the thing about the distance, we had the Mucho Macho Man and the Pasco. Every owner wants to run the Mucho Macho Man because it's Gulf Street Park, it's the championship meet, it's also more money. And they let on me the decision to pick the horse. Like the last year, No More Time, we scratched from the Holy Bull and run the Sam Davis, and we was right. They let me this year make my own decision, and we was right again. So, I am very happy to train for them. I'd be grateful for the support to train good horses. Is that you need. You are not a magician if you don't have the right horses.
Well, Jose, thanks so much for joining us on the TDN Writers Room. It's so nice to finally look at a handsome face. Sorry, guys, but he's a very handsome man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zoe.
I'm gonna introduce Guns Loaded. I have Guns Loaded here, so you can see him. 1 second.
Oh, you're upside down right now. Turn your phone back up.
1 second.
Turn your phone the other way. We're
going to get up close and personal with Guns Loaded.
Yes, 1 second. I am on my way.
This is awesome.
Here.
Oh.
What's up, buddy?
I love that. He's quite the ham. Oh, two handsome men. Oh, my goodness. You've made my new year.
Yes.
Thank you for that. We appreciate it.
And here we have Howard Wolowitz, the $2 million horse.
Who's this?
This is Howard Wolowitz.
Oh, yeah, big boy.
See, no trainer has done this for us yet. You're the very first one, Jose. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you. Well, yes.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jose D'Angelo, our guest of the week, was brought to you by Gainesway. Power, passion, performance. Gainesway is also the new home to last year's Preakness winner, Seize the Gray, the highest earning son of the late Arrowgate, with $2.5 million upon his retirement. He beat Darnock in his debut at Saratoga. Seize the Gray also beat Mystic Dan, the Kentucky Derby winner in the Preakness, and the cherry on top was his win in the Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby. Seize the Gray will be standing in his debut season at Gainesway for $30,000.
Seize the Gray wins convincingly.
Seize the Gray! He's going to seize the day in the Pennsylvania Derby!
Seize the Gray is still there! Seize the Gray wins the Preakness!
PA Bred, I think we've built a brand at this point.
It's excitement at every step.
Roses for Deborah just set a new track record.
On average, for the past decade, Pennsylvania paid over $28 million a year in Breeders' Awards, restricted races, and owner bonuses. Plus, PA Bred shine on the world's biggest stage. Just 3 states have bred more Breeders' Cup winners. Learn more at pabred.com.
Another year here on the TDN Writers Room. And it's time for another commercial for the PHBA, and why not? The Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. Their annual Stallion Season Auction will be held January 13th through the 19th, and already there are 100 stallion seasons, more than 100, that are listed from more than 7 states. You can bid and register on this website you see on the screen, thoroughbred.com. And for an updated list of available stallions as we get closer to that auction, you can keep checking back at pabred.com. You can also go to pabred.com for more information on the Pennsylvania program as a whole, or you can call that number 610-444-1050.
Now, I know you guys have missed it, and we've been away for a while, but it is time, drumroll please, for another edition of First Things First, presented by Santa Anita and First Racing. We caught up with Miramati and Barnes, the two-legged humankind, to find out exactly what they thought about their four-legged friends. Happy to be joined by track announcer at Santa Anita, Frank Miramati. Frank, before we get to the four-legged Miramati, let's talk about opening week at Santa Anita, and it was amazing for me, but how was it for you?
It was awesome. Anytime you look downstairs at this beautiful facility, we have an incredible, probably the most incredible arena, so to speak, for the big crowd. And to see the people show up, we know what's happening opening day, but all opening weekend and then New Year's Day, I thought everyone was caught off guard and surprised. Maybe Dollar Day is not a thing of the past. People showed up, there were long lines, they were having a good time. And more importantly, we had great racing, safe racing. So I think so far, management's very pleased with what we see.
All right, let's get to the meat. Let's talk Miramati. I was a little rude in my analysis of him, saying he might have lost his best friend, but boy, did he pull it out.
He did. Juan Hernandez knows him, and Baffert knows he needs to be on the front end. His race before was a complete throwout because he got caught behind horses. The question I had is that the horse has had some issues early in his career, much like his namesake. So I was wondering whether he could overcome some of the obstacles that he had faced, because once he got discouraged last time, when he gets uncomfortable, he just shuts it down. But Juan put him on the lead and he kept going, and it was a very powerful performance. And for those who believe in speed figures, he had a very good 98 buyer speed number, which is solid. I was hoping triple digits, but maybe we'll get that in the big cap.
How does it feel to have a horse named for you that wins and you're calling the race? I mean, isn't that pretty awesome?
It is. I got to call his debut. He got drilled. I did get to call when he broke his maiden. That was a lot of fun. And then this win was really almost a defining moment. I think when he gets his stakes, it'll be a defining moment. But I think he showed that he is indeed a stakes caliber and perhaps grade 1 caliber horse.
And a stellar performance from Miramati, who takes him all the way. Miramati scores by 4.5.
I'm joined right now by Jimmy Barnes, the assistant to Bob Baffert, and of course, the namesake. The first.
I'm the human Barnes.
I love it. Did Amer call you and be like, is it okay if I name this horse after you? Or he just did it?
They surprised me with it, and, I was honored. I was a little nervous, but, it's working out well so far.
I would say so. A perfect 2 for 2. Now, you've been around, obviously, all of the good Bob Baffert horses. Do you have a little bit of favoritism, though, because he's your namesake?
Well, no, not really. I love them all.
And was it nerve-wracking for you to watch your namesake run?
Well, it was a little bit. I had a little bit of a knot in my stomach, but, it'll only get better after this.
Well, now we can jump up and down and be excited. Congratulations.
Thank you, Michelle.
Want to thank Jimmy and Frank Miramati very much indeed. And just a reminder that racing does continue this Friday at Santa Anita. It's been a little tricky to figure out the post times because we've got so many races. Friday, we have a 10 race card on Friday that will start at noon. There are, let me see, I wrote it down somewhere because there's so many, 102 horses entered on that Friday 10 race card. On Saturday, we start at 11:30 a.m. for 11 races and some ridiculous number like 110 horses entered in that card. We had an opening 2-week total sources handle of over $90 million. And kudos to all of those people that came out the past 2 weeks. There were over 94,000 people that visited Santa Anita. Kudos to everyone and kudos to the racing office as well for getting all these races to go. It looks like it's onwards and upwards right now at Santa Anita.
Zoe, before we move on, I want to ask you a follow-up question on that. How much are these big fields due to the incoming supply of horses from Northern California?
It's gradually getting there. I think the first week they had trouble filling a couple of the Northern California races because the last weekend at Pleasanton was so big. You know what happens when it's closing weekend, everyone wants to run, understandably. But now they're starting to pick up some momentum. They're trying to get an extra 2 races every day, and it's working. Hence, we have 9 on Friday, 10 on Saturday. Ultimately, we're looking to get back to a 4-day racing week. And the big thing as well has been the on-track handle is up, I think like 10% or 12%, which really puts a lot more money back into the purses at Santa Anita. So good news. It's, job security for me, right? Onward and upward. We like that.
Well, the list of the Eclipse Award finalists came out this week, which is largely, if you ask me, a waste of time. There's never any surprises in there. And you don't learn a whole lot from that. But it gives us an excuse to talk again about the Eclipse Awards. I think we're all 3 voters. Our votes have to be. And there was 3 particular categories that I had trouble with. And I really had to think overtime on them, which is usually not the case. Usually they're almost all no-brainers. First of all, as a trainer, Kenny McPeek versus Chad Brown. And this is a very unique situation. If you go by the raw numbers, Chad Brown should win. It should be a walkover. His numbers were fantastic. But I voted for Kenny McPeek because of what he did this year, which I thought he did something truly special, winning on back-to-back days the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby, almost winning the Travers with his great filly, Torpedo Anna, coming back and winning the Breeders' Cup Distaff with Torpedo Anna, and then Torpedo Anna will be Horse of the Year. 20 years from now, when we talk about 2024, we'll be talking about those horses and not any one of the millions of good horses that Chad Brown has. So my vote went for Kenny McPeek. Zoe?
Kenny too. Absolutely. And I believe he's going to get it because everyone I've spoken to has voted for Kenny.
Well, it's good to know. I voted for Kenny McPeek also. Nothing against Chad Brown in the year he had, which was an amazing year. I'm glad to hear that everybody you talked to has voted for Kenny McPeek because I was a little concerned. In fact, I kind of went into this podcast expecting Chad Brown to win it just because so many people that are Eclipse Award voters, when they get to the owner, trainer, jockey, breeder, all they do is just look at the standings of earnings and maybe graded stakes wins or whatever, and they go to whoever's on top, and it's, it's a habit. And Chad Brown is on top in that category. So, I was kind of skeptical as to whether or not Kenny could get it, and we'll see.
Here's one for you. Here's one for you. And this didn't really cross my mind until I saw a tweet by Jay Privman, Brian Hernandez.
I was just going to say, that's the only surprise, Zoe, that I had. Like Bill says, you're very seldom surprised by these finalists. And when I was filling out my votes, obviously Flavien Prat deserved to be number one.
Correct.
Right? Irad Ortiz had a heck of a year, and I fell into the trap of just looking at the standings, right? And he was on top as always. So I put Irad second, and I said, who am I going to put third? Yeah, I mean, there's been some good years, but Brian Hernandez. Why not? I mean, we talked about what a great ride that he gave Mystic Dan in the Kentucky Derby. We talked about how he seized the day with Torpedo Anna in the Kentucky Oaks and put her on the lead, which was a change in tactics. And then he wins the Breeders' Cup Distaff. We praised Brian Hernandez. Why not?
Not a finalist.
Certainly deserves recognition, but that's one of those no-brainer categories. Flavien Prat will be the Eclipse Award-winning jockey, and for good reason. Okay, 3-year-old male. What a battle between Fierceness and Sierra Leone. They ran against each other 4 times. They split the 2 races 2-2. Fierceness had some very good races. Beating Sierra Leone earlier in the year, but then when it came down to the race that really matters, is the Breeders' Cup Classic, won by Sierra Leone. And Randy, fill us in, because I know your colleague Andy Byer had some pretty strong thoughts on this. You look at the Breeders' Cup Classic, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I think a lot of people think the best horse was Fierceness, even though he didn't win. So should you vote for him over Sierra Leone because he was, quote unquote, the best horse? I went back and forth on that, but at the end of the day, I just went for Sierra Leone. He won the race. And, I don't care I do care what kind of trip Fierceness had. It was very, very impressive. But I think you have to, it's too hypothetical. Oh, if he would have had a good trip, he would have won. So he's better than Sierra Leone. I'll go for my good friend Chad Brown and Sierra Leone.
So, I've worked with Andy for 4 decades on the Beyer Speed Figures. He's a dear friend of mine. It's to the shock of no one. Andy's very opinionated about things. And he told me in no uncertain terms that I made a mistake voting for Sierra Leone for champion 3-year-old over Fierceness. And I especially made a mistake voting for Torpedo Anna for Horse of the Year, right? Anyone who votes for Torpedo Anna should never be allowed to vote again for the Eclipse Awards. And he has his criteria and he has his reasons. But those are votes that I made that he definitely did not agree with.
There's no wrong vote, okay? There's no wrong vote. If you voted for Fierceness, I'm not going to argue with you. If you voted for Sierra Leone, I'm not going to argue with you, but Sierra Leone's going to win. Simple.
Who'd you vote for Horse of the Year?
Torpedo Anna. Sorry, okay. Andy.
All right. So the other one that I wanted to talk about was the turf male. And this is something Randy and I talk a lot about, and this comes up every year. Do you vote for the horse that ships in from Europe and is a 1 race on U.S. soil winner, like Rebels Romance? Rebels Romance had a terrific year. He was 5 for 6, and boy, did he pick up some frequent flyer miles running in Qatar, Germany, the UK, Hong Kong, Dubai, and then coming into the U.S. Was he the best turf horse in the world in 2025? Perhaps. He was certainly the best turf horse in the U.S. on Breeders' Cup Day, but I hate voting for these horses that come in and win 1 race. I don't care what he did in Qatar. I don't care what he did in Germany. If he won a race on Mars, I don't care. It only comes down to me, to what he did in the U.S., and it's only 1 race. That's why I went with Carl Spackler, who was 4th in the Breeders' Cup Mile, but he won 4 stakes races this year, including 2 Grade 1s. I'd like to take the horse that had a complete U.S. campaign over the horse that was very good on one day. Rebels Romance was the horse of the day. Carl Spackler was the older turf male of the year.
No, I would rather not vote for a horse that made only 1 start in the United States. But then I looked at the alternatives. As long as it's not a rule, which I think it should be a rule, that a horse has to run at least twice in North America to be given an Eclipse Award on that calendar year. But it's not. So I looked at Rebels Romance. Okay, who else can I vote for? Right? Johannes had an unbelievable year, but he lost in the Breeders' Cup. The horse that beat him, More Than Looks, in the Breeders' Cup Mile, had a very abbreviated campaign himself. I think he only had 3 starts maybe in calendar year 2024. So it's not like he had this big, long body of work himself. So I thought, okay, the best horse of the 3, I think, would be Rebel's Romance. So he won the most prestigious race of any of them. So that I kind of held my nose, and it's not fair to the horse to say I held my nose, but that's why I voted for Rebel's Romance.
I went Johanna's body of work because I am a firm believer that it should be 2 starts for, Rebel's Romance. So it was body of work. I know that More Than Looks beat him, but he only ran 2 or 3 times this year. So Johanna's for me. Pegasus is gearing up, and the TDN Writers Room is brought to you by XBTV. This week's XBTV Work of the Week is the joint work between graded stakes-winning stablemates Locked and Croupy. The Todd Pletcher pair went 5 furlongs in company in 103 and change at Palm Beach Downs on Friday. Todd Pletcher said that both colts are pointing towards the January the 25th $3 million Pegasus World Cup. Locked was an impressive winner of the Cigar Mile last time out. Thank you. I said he would win. And Croupy won this summer's Suburban before finishing second in the Whitney. That's Croupy on the outside with Danny Wright aboard him, who's a regular gallop rider of fierceness, under a vigorous ride there. On the inside is Hector aboard Locked, who I believe got the edge. 103 is not a time to write home about, but that is a very deep, tiring track down there.
Be a smarter, better with XBTV. The best horses. With thousands of exclusive morning workouts. All at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart. Bet smart with XBTV.
With some of the fullest fields in the country and quality racing year-round, there's never been a better time to reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high, as is average purse per race, outpacing California, Florida, and New York. Kentucky breds. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
The TDN Writers Room also brought to you by Kentucky Breds. We have already talked about earlier on this podcast about how you can go to the TDN website and you can peruse the very first Derby Top 12 of the year by our friend TD Cojones Thornton. And guess what it's filled with? It's not like TD sits down and says, okay, I'm going to make my Derby Top 12. And I'm going to include nothing but Kentucky breds. I'm just going to load it with Kentucky breds. The hell with Florida and California and Iowa and every other state that might have a horse. I'm going to go with, no, he doesn't do that. It's what happens because Kentucky produces the best horses. As a matter of fact, 11 out of TD's top 12 in his Derby, as it turns out, were bred in Kentucky, including his 1, 2, 3 First Resort Sandman and Barnes, to the surprise of nobody. Kentucky breds, breed them, buy them, raise them. We all win.
Well, one of the themes of the Writers Room podcast in 2024, and Zoe, Randy, myself, we're always on the same page on this, is the sport has to do better. You have to do better with the welfare of the animals. And you have to do better job of explaining to our critics that, hey, we really love these horses and we really care. A couple of things have happened recently, again, that makes you wonder. And it's not a blanket statement for all of racing, but there are some bad apples out there and people who still, I think we would say, don't get it. And I want to start off, it happened, I think, on the day of our last podcast when Paco Lopez rode a horse at Parks. The horse, it was a crazy race. You should take a look at it. It was on December 3rd. The horse bore out so badly in the stretch that he was really just a few feet away from the outer rail. He did win the race, but when he crossed the wire, Paco took his whip and struck him on the neck and in the face. Somebody, I don't know how somebody still had their camera on him afterwards. afterwards. If not for that, they probably never would have caught him. But people were indignant, as they should have been. There's no place for that in racing. He's been given an indefinite suspension by the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. My guess is they'll make him sit out 60, 90 days. But Zoe, I'm sure you've had plenty of rides where things have frustrated you. And I know, of course, you would never do something as heinous as that.
Good. I'm full of this crap. Throw the book at him. It's BS as far as I'm concerned. He's got a little temper, obviously, and he took it out on the horse. You know, after the horse had done everything wrong already and finally pulled up, took a breath, he just opted to wallop him. No, it's BS. Throw the book at him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, the possibility existed, given that race, for Paco to have been injured, maybe seriously injured, because of the antics of the horse. That's why he was frustrated. But there's no justification whatsoever for taking out your frustration in that manner on the horse. Take your frustration out on the trainer. Don't hit him. Don't hit him with a whip. But, complain about the way the horse behaved during the running of the race. Tell the trainer, I'm never going to ride this horse again. This horse is wild or whatever. But, don't take it out on the poor animal. And Paco is, he's apologized, but that's not enough. And he's serving his penance.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too, with a good point, Randy. By the time when this happened, the horse was pulled up, was completely under control, was no longer doing anything to be of any danger to Paco, but still he decided to take out his frustrations on him. Okay, Dan Ross, who does a terrific job for the TDN, did a deep dive on a story that made a lot of comments on social media. A horse by the name of War Envoy, once upon a time a campaign by the Coolmore folks, actually won a race at Royal Ascot, then came over here. They tried to make a stallion out of him. Didn't really work out. He was found last week or the week before among 13 horses that had to be rescued from a Franklin County, Kentucky farm in various states of malnutrition, etc. And here's the question again. What do we say to our critics when, first of all, it shouldn't matter if he's a $2,000 claimer from Mountaineer Park or a horse that won at Royal Ascot, but we tend to put these better horses on a pedestal and concentrate on them. What do we say to the people who are critics of horse racing that this horse could have achieved all these levels, could have done this much for his owners along the way, and somehow was virtually left to starve to death? Fortunately, he's been rescued out of there, and they'll get him back to good health. But it's a story where, racing has to do a better job. This can't keep happening, and it does. Zoe?
It's atrocious. The pictures of those horses made national headlines in Europe, in England, in the Daily Mirror. War Envoy, Breeders' Cup horse left in cold mud pen to die. The pictures are brutal. It's atrocious. There is no excuse for it. I know that Mick posted the horse was healthy and everything in September, and it's not really a fault of him. He gave him away to a friend of a friend to be a backyard breeder. But we need to do a better job of tracking the horses we give away. And they do have something in the Jockey Club that's listed in Dan's article, but it's not enough. None of it is enough. It shouldn't happen. We need to do better. Could
not agree more. We talk a lot, and rightfully so, about horse safety in terms of on-track catastrophic accidents. And we've talked a lot about how that has improved significantly under the guidance of HISA, right, which is one of the real good news stories of 2024. But the difference between this War Envoy situation and those situations is that as much as we try and do everything we can to get those numbers down as far as catastrophic injuries on the racetrack, there is unfortunately, there's no way to completely 100% get rid of them because they're unavoidable to a certain extent. This is avoidable. This is 100% avoidable and can be corrected with the proper administrative tools, the proper oversight, et cetera, et cetera. And this is something that racing really, really needs to get on top of. Now, there are a lot of organizations that have popped up over the last 20 years dedicated to aftercare for thoroughbreds, but even more funding, more needs to be done. Because make no mistake about it, if this continues, the knives will come out, and they will come out against thoroughbred racing. Dan had a great point in the article that it's not just thoroughbred racing that has this problem. Show jumping, any equine sports, casual riding horse ownership. Horses of all kinds can wind up in bad situations. But if this keeps happening, the knives will come out against thoroughbred racing. And thoroughbred racing can't afford that to happen right now in its current state.
And this is one thing as well. This is kind of a different take on aftercare, because we have all of these facilities that will take the geldings and the mares as riding horses. But what do we do with the stallions? The only place in North America that really takes stallions is Old Friends, okay? So they've got the likes of Silver Charm and other stallions. War Envoy, there was an Intermischief stallion there as well. These are stallions. So what do you do with them when they're no longer useful? What do you do with the mares that have given their life to having foals? This is something that is near and dear to me, and we need to take more care of it. Walker Hancock from Claiborne Farm tweeted out, and Dan Ross had spoken to him, that as of 2025, they are no longer selling mares that are 17 years or older at any auction house in North America, which I applaud, because there's too many people culling their older mares that they've made millions off of. It drives me insane. And then they also said that they're going to more than half their day rate. So if you have an old retired mare at Claiborne, they're going to charge you $10 a day to put the horse in the back 40. And then you're done. They'll take care of her till she dies, or she needs to be euthanized. People need to take care of their old mares. If you don't want her anymore, and I hate to say this, euthanize her. Do not give her away or sell her at an auction house for $1,000. It's not fair. They wind up in terrible places. That's my
kudos to Claiborne. I'm glad you mentioned that, Zoe, because it's good to see somebody out there coming up with some solutions, and good for Claiborne.
The TDN Writers Room, again, this year is brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. We told you about how well West Point's horses ran in 2024. A lot of those horses are coming back again in 25, like Carson's Run and Vava, both Grade 1 winners. Pegasus World Cup Turf, Probables, Battle of Normandy and Integration, and the prolific Don't Look Back at All. The next wave also is full of promise, the 2-year-olds, potentially with an eye toward the first Saturday in May. You've got Bullard, you've got Keep It Easy, you've got Pascaline, and you've got Sandman, number 2 on TD Thornton's Derby Top 12, who's on track for his next start, the Southwest Stakes, Jan 25 at Oaklawn. Now here's more from West Point.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
Well, that's a wrap on our first show of 2025. I hope you enjoyed it. It's good to be back. I want to thank my colleagues, Randy Moss and Zoe Cadman, along with those dogs. Doesn't it just warms your heart to see look how sweet they are. And old generic, who takes care of the dogs when they get old? Well, we do.
We do.
Yes, we do, and take good care of them.
Dog aftercare is very important.
Very important.
We want to thank our Gainesway Guest of the Week, Jose D'Angelo, our editors and our producers, Katie Petruniak, Sue Finley, Anthony LaRocca, and Ali LaRocca. Have a great 2025, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.